And there will be a chance at the end for questions and hopefully a broad discussion before we finish around about 8 or 8:15. Jaime, thank you.
Thank you. I'm very pleased, very honored to be here. And I have to say, in between my terms as a mayor or as a governor, back to my office, I used to work in many cities. And one time I worked in Havana, Cuba. You know, in Cuba, they have the habitude to speaking for hours. The Generalissimo en Jefe, Fidel Castro, used to speak for 11 hours, 13 hours. So sometimes when I'm happy, I have this Cuban spirit. And I have to say, today I'm happy. So be prepared. First of all, I just want to share some thoughts, like a testimony. Because in many parts of the world, people are so pessimistic about the future of the cities. And, you know, my feeling is and they are projecting the tragedies. Oh, the day when the city of Mexico will have 50 million people, or the city of Sao Paulo or Cairo will have 30 million people. If you project the tragedy, you'll have the tragedy. So if you invest your energy to avoid trends that they are not desirable, you can do it. So that's why I always have this, I'm very optimistic. I'm saying the city is not a problem. City is a solution for a country. I hope many decision makers in the world will understand that. Because if you have a generous view about your cities, we'll have a generous view about people. But you need decision making, you need solidarity, a strategy, and you have to build a good equation of co-responsibility. I've met many mayors in the world, some of them from big cities. They're saying, oh, my city is so big, it's not possible. Others coming from very poor countries, they're saying, we don't have the financial resources. I would say that every problem in a city has its own equation of co-responsibility, its own solution. First of all, I have to introduce some friends from a book that I wrote about 20 years ago for teenagers and children, trying to explain the city through some characters. For me, the best example of quality of life is the turtle, because it's a good example of living, working, and moving together. And at the same time, the turtle has in its casque a tessiture, a design of a urban tessiture. So I call this turtle Vita. So can you imagine if we cut the casque of the turtle in different places, living here, working here, having leisure here, so the turtle would be very sad. So, and it's what we're doing in our cities. Living here, working here, living, and most of the people, they are living in the city, they think they are living in the city, but they are living outside the city. In my country, there are very rich people, they want to be in a condominium, very well protected, and more protected, and more, until the conclusion, the prisoners are them. They are the prisoners. And at the moment they want to leave that place, there will be people waiting for them. The other character is the automobile. This is a guy who is invited for a party. He doesn't want to leave. And the chairs are over the table, and he drinks a lot. And he coughs a lot. And very, very egotist. Because, you know, he just carries 1 or 2 or 3 people. But I used to say this example. The car is like our mother-in-law. We have to have good relationship with her, but we cannot live, she'll conduct our life. In other words, if the only woman in your life is your mother-in-law, you have a problem. Every city has its own design. If it's radio, linear, Curitiba has its design. Rio, it's like 2 birds kissing themselves through the bridge. Oaxaca is very easy to read. San Francisco is Market Street, Van Ness, and the waterfront. So, and this is the design of Curitiba. But this design tries to make from the city a structure of living, working, and circulating, and moving, living, working, and moving together. That's why we have, in the places where there are more density, we have public transport. Okay, sometimes we have bad architecture, but high density only where we can offer good public transport. And this is the buses running in dedicated lanes. It's not painted lanes, it's dedicated. This is very close to my house. So if you're nearby, come to have a coffee. You're invited. I give you a voucher. This is a double articulated bus. I know that you don't like too much of these accordions. I'm familiar of that. But we love the accordion because we didn't have the double-decker before. So it's our identity. So this bus, what's the difference? It has capacity, it's 300 people, and the technical conditions is these buses are from Volvo, is 275. Sweden, 300 Brazilians. But it's not only the dedicated lanes, it's the boarding conditions, the boarding facilities, and the frequency. You don't have to wait more than 1 minute, and sometimes 30 seconds. And what makes the difference is This is how it was the evolution. We started in 74 with 25,000 passengers per day. Now we are transporting 2,400,000 passengers per day. And it's not subsidized, it pays by itself. So what makes the difference is this boarding tube, this boarding station, where you can pay before entering the bus and you're boarding in the same level. That gives to the bus the same performance than a subway. It's like metronizing the bus. So, and it's glass. The people, they respect. There's no graffiti. And sometimes we have these boarding tubes in front of the stadiums. You know, when they team, they lose soccer. When they lose, they're not so happy. They can broke, but everyone respects. And the boarding is like that, very fast boarding. And this is for handicapped. It's a small cylinder, which is an elevator that allows every person to use equally the whole system. But I'm not trying to prove which system is the best. Sometimes I was discussing that in my city, the people, they were saying, oh, we need the subway. I'm trying to say, what makes, we didn't have the money to build a subway. We had to imagine what could be the conditions. It has to be fast, reliable, and you have to board it very, very, very easily. So, and the way how the equation was, the city, we designed the system and we invested in the itinerary. And the private initiative, they bought the fleet. We didn't have the money to buy or to invest $250 million in a fleet. So they are investing in the fleet and we pay them by kilometer. And it works. But I don't want to prove which is the best system. I like our system, but any system is good. If you have a subway, you have to have a smart subway. If you have buses, you have to have smart buses. If you have any kind of system, the only condition for good mobility, my point of view, it's never compete in the same space. We designed this system in Rio in 1983. It was designed as a connection between the subway and the bus and the railroad. And the people from the subway, they were against. So we lost this opportunity, but 24 years after, the company of the subway, they called us to develop again the system. And this is the new design. It's on glass with LED. And can you imagine this? It's not with colors during the day. We don't want a Shanghai in. It's slightly, the idea is having slightly colored at night. You can imagine this in the landscape of Rio. And this is the model, how it could work. I hope they're going to make it. you know. We don't have the decision. But I like, and it's possible to increase the capacity of the subway in Rio for 1 million passengers, and the railroad more 700,000 passengers. Here we have the bikes. It's only on the parks, we're linking all the parks, and we have a small part that goes into, just to have some continuity into the downtown area. But I would like to speak about sustainability a little bit, because now everyone wants to be sustainable. In the US, many mayors, they signed the Kyoto Protocol. But on my point of view, it's okay, but the question is what you're doing for your own city. It's not enough. And sometimes in this discussion, we don't know what to do. I've been in many seminars, many meetings. One is, okay, we have to have new materials. Second is we have, it's important, but it's not enough. Thank you. It's important, but it's not enough. Third is green buildings, very, very important. It's not enough. Recycling, new sources of energy, very, very important. But when we realize that 75% of carbon emissions are related to the cities, it's on the conception of the cities that we have to work. So if I'm obsessed about the idea how to teach children on sustainability, with a few, let's say, a few commandments. First one, use less your car. I'm not saying not using your car. You can meet your mother-in-law from time to time. I'm not saying not using your car. I'm saying at least in routine itinerary, use public transport. But it has to be a good alternative. And my feeling is, when we realized that in 30 years after the big meeting in '72 in Sweden, in Stockholm, 30 years after, we realized how there is more concern about environment, and we'll have more concern every time about sustainability if we know what to do. So use less your car, and I think every city, big city, will have to improve their quality of public transport. Okay, London, Moscow, New York, and Paris, they have a complete network, because it was done more than 100 years ago when it was less expensive to work underground. And now what we have in some cities, 3 or 4 lines, okay? São Paulo has 4 lines of the subway, but 84% of people, their trips are on the surface. So they have to have a good system on surface. So use less your car. The second, separate your garbage. We started in our city teaching the children. and 88. During 6 months, we teach all the children in all the schools how to separate the organic, recyclable, and the children, they teach their parents. And after we started the campaign. So the campaign, it was not done like normally in the media with a voice, a loud voice, a voice of God. The government of the cities doing that and that. It was a campaign done, I try to show you, by the family leaves. So we have that in many schools, the family leaves, they try to teach the children how to separate. And we started a program of changing, for instance, the green area per inhabitant. We had in 71.5 square meter per inhabitant. Now we have 52 square meter per inhabitant, and the population tripled. That means 300 times more. And every park, every place becoming a park, old quarries. This quarry was transformed in the Open University for Environment. It was inaugurated by Jacques Cousteau. I remember when he went there for the first, this is the Aula Magna, he went for the first time, he said just one word, superbe. And all the architecture in our parks are with old wooden poles, treated poles, because we bought from all the energy companies and telephone companies, we bought the treated poles, and we use them all in our parks. And this is the Botanic Garden. Normally it takes 100 years to build a Botanic Garden. This Botanic Garden was done in 3 months. Nothing magic, which we're still planting, but there's one part of the park of the Botanic that is being used immediately. It's a kind of lightning of the city. And this is the trade by garbage. After teaching the children how to separate, we started a campaign. I was watching in the TV people throwing away food because they couldn't have the good price for, so they were throwing away. I told them, let's make a deal. We're going to buy, and we changed by this food by recyclable materials, and every child, they knew that doing that they're helping the children from the agricultures. And another question, we're speaking about one, using less car,